Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And have you ever wanted to experience infinite power, infinite mana? Then I have a build for you here today in this video. I've been playing Disciplined Priest, and I have recently swapped over to the Night Fae Covenant, and boy, has it been worth it. I am now able to out-mana even Resto Druids and Restoration Shamans when performed optimally. So I'm going to be covering this build in this specific video. We're fighting a composition, the Shadow Priest Warrior Resto Druid, one of the most difficult to actually maintain your mana against, and I am actually able to outdo them by the end of the match. So with this build in particular, you're going to be running with the Fae Guardians, and when you have the Fae Guardians, this means you want to use your Rapture very early and often. You want to be sending your fairies out onto the main target that's being attacked with your Purge the Wicked, and this way any members hitting that target are going to restore mana back to you. And you can see that right now with my mana bar going right back up to full HP. And the main reason that we're using Rapture very early and often is because the cooldown reduction that will be applied to you when you activate the Fae Guardians or the Fae Fermata will reduce the cooldown of your Rapture down significantly lower. You can see my Rapture is already 34 seconds before it's going to be available again. So you're going to be getting very big value out of your Rapture with this build and a ton of mana back. In between your little Fae Guardians, you're going to be launching your Shadow Fiends to restore mana. You're going to be focusing on Trinity healing and spamming Smite and Penance on as many enemy targets as possible. You are not going to be running instant Radiance. You're in fact not even going to need to use a Radiance as this build. I do recommend running this with melee DPS that can heal, so like an Enhancement Shaman or a Ret. Once we've rotated through our Astral Shift on our Shaman, we're then going to rotate into our Pain Suppression to buy time to get to the next Astral Shift. And we're just going to keep making sure that our atonements are up onto all three of our allies using Power Word Shield, mashing out our penances, our Power Word Solace, and our smites as frequently as possible. You want to max out your APM, and you can already see a significant lead here. The Druid's down 20,000 mana. I'm only down 10,000, and I can now restore it again with my fairies available. You can see that on my one keybind on the bottom left. So I do want to make sure that those fairies are going as soon as possible onto the target my allies are attacking. I've utilized my Rapture here in between our Pain Suppression and our Astral Shift, and we're going to launch our fairies onto the warrior. We're going to spread them onto the priest with our Purge the Wicked, and with our conduit, it's going to remain on both targets for a short amount of time. We're also going to use Power Word Shield to get damage reduction from our fairies, so it's a great extra little mini cooldown to rotate through so that you can stay aggressive, maintain your mana, and it feels so good in a lot of these matchups where you would have otherwise just almost been completely out of mana for the long run here. Like now look at the Druid, half mana. I'm still only 10,000 mana down after that Fae that Fae Guardian activation. So now we can keep using our Powered Solaces. Sometimes you'll run into a situation where you're going to need to Shadow Mend, and that's usually when you don't have any defensives. So I don't have a Pain Suppression here. I don't have a Rapture here. I don't have an Astral Shift. So focusing your Penance and your Shadow Mends during that time to get you through a big bursty window from your opponents is likely going to be necessary. And that actually taxed me a lot of mana. So I think maybe coordinating a little bit better with my team. I think there were times where we were using our cooldowns when the warrior is disarmed, for example, that wouldn't be necessary. We can just assume the disarm is going to reduce enough damage. Here they've used a Spear of Bastion. This is again a scary moment, so crowd controlling the warrior. We're going to have to use Shadow Mends because our cooldowns aren't available just yet, and this is costing us a lot of mana, but Rapture is coming off cooldown, and just look how frequently and rapidly that thing is coming off cooldown, exactly when I need it, right here at 10%. To start getting some beefy shields onto all of my allies. So it really makes it easier to heal as the Night Fae Discipline Priest because you're going to have access to these shields. Can't wait for the next patch where you're going to be able to run the Reflective Shield legendary and reflect all of that damage back to your enemies. Then we're going to activate the Fae Guardians. We're going to put that up on the Priest with Purge the Wicked. We're going to try and spam out heals here to sustain our team as much as possible. Tell my teammates who the fairies are on. Switch them if my allies can't connect to that target, because it is very important that all three members of the team are hitting the target that you put your fairies on, because every ability spent on that target will then restore mana back to you. And I think honestly during that Fae Guardian phase, my teammates were all over the place hitting randomly different targets, and that actually is going to cost me a lot of mana. I didn't restore nearly as much as I could have, but now I have my Shadow Fiend. If I use my Powered Solaces, I should still be able to restore mana and out-mana the Druid without even drinking. And I think that this Druid even does drink in this specific matchup. So if you want to build that you're able to just pump out massive damage, infinite power, infinite mana, This is definitely the build that you need to be checking out. Make sure you jump over to Night Fae, get your hands on the Covenant specific legendary for it as well. I have it on my helmet. This is going to double the value of your Guardian, so you're getting more mana back, you're getting more damage reduction, you're getting more cooldown reduction. And it's going to play out really smoothly the way that you can fit in your Raptures with the other defensive cooldowns of your team. And you're just going to feel really powerful and just always pumping out damage numbers. You can see me in the matchup at 400,000 damage at this point, 300,000 more than the Resto Druid, who I believe is playing Thorns. So we're just spamming out as many pences here in this position. Smites, keeping Purge the Wicked on 3 targets. Try and spread the Purge the Wicked with Penance rather than reapply it. That does actually cost a lot of mana. And look, Rapture's right back up, right when I needed it. We got the Fae Guardians. We can launch those out for damage reduction on top of the Rapture. We can start getting our mana back. We can start just running on top of them. And look at this Resto Druid. They're I'm not I'm still 10k mana at this point with my fairies active and sending mana back to me right now. And if my teammates were hitting the same thing during all of that points, we were kind of swapping around a lot during that to go for the kill, which actually did end up netting the kill. I would have restored even more mana back. So I think that actually is kind of like a main focus point that you will want to look at if you do decide to run this build specifically, is that your allies need to be hitting that same target. So like I can jump back and look at this. And you'll see that specific moment, maybe slow it down a bit, and we can see how much mana we're going to get back comparatively to when we're not hitting the same target. So right here, we activate Rapture, right? So this is so we can get our shields and get the cooldown rolling. Then we activate the fairies. The cooldown's going to get way faster. We're going to Purge the Wicked, the Shadow Priest, and we're going to use our fairy keybind to put the mask on the priest as well. So all of it's duplicating from him, but we're attacking the warrior. The warrior does have it, but doesn't have my mask. So I should have switched my mask to the warrior right here with my allies attacking the warrior rather than the Shadow Priest to get mana back, because this wasn't the most maximized mana return, honestly, if this game didn't end literally just a few seconds later. And that's why this can be a bit of a difficult build to master, is that you really need to make sure that all of your teammates, or that you're able to get your mask and your Purge the Wicked fairy onto the main target that everyone is hitting, so that you can restore the most amount of mana. Because I got basically almost close to nothing from that on the priest, because I was the only one able to hit them. But if we go back to the beginning of the game, you'll see that I was able to get maximal value out of it, because we were able to hit the same target the entire duration, and I was able to get all of my mana back. So right here, we're going to use Rapture, because it's going to be a really short cooldown from running the Night Fae. It's going to get my team really tanky and beefy to push through cooldowns. We launch the fairies onto the warrior, because my shaman is locked down on the warrior. So right now we have fairies on warrior, that's the blue icon, and we have the mask on the warrior, which is double mana return to anyone hitting the warrior. And then if they swap to the priest, I can Purge the Wicked the priest. This will move the fairies over to the priest. Then I can press my fairy keybind to move it to the priest as well. Or I can just leave it like this. I have 2 mana fairies, one on the warrior, one on the priest. They're working at, I think, 80% effectiveness with the conduit, but it's restoring mana back regardless of who we're hitting at this point. And you can see me going up to full mana that whole time. Even though I was spamming out Rapture shields and spamming out heals, I was able to sustain my mana maximally. So during those fairy moments, it may depend on what's going on in the match. Sometimes you're focused on surviving, so you want to prioritize the Power Word Shield Fairies for damage reduction. But if you're able to prioritize the mana fairies onto enemy targets and switch them back and forth with the Purge the Wickeds, you're basically going to be just refilling your tank so fast, getting a discount on your mana, and you're going to be able to out-mana a lot of these teams that are putting out tremendous amounts of pressure. So if you enjoyed this video and you like this type of content, and you want to see news updates, patch changes to the game, and make sure you're staying completely up to date with what's going on with World of Warcraft, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I am also streaming every day on twitch.tv/Supatease. So if you'd like to catch the push live, you can follow me there. And I'm going to be checking out a lot more things, everything 9.2. So if you want to see anything cool and exciting for that, I've got a top 7 specs video out right now, but I'm even finding more as I continue to dig deeper onto the PTR itself. So if you want to see that information and kind of get ahead of the curve in terms of data and knowledge, so you can maybe bounce up the ratings a little bit faster at the start of the next season, the next patch, then make sure you're subscribed. And other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I will see you in the next one.